Our Gauneta is also from one of the
Houston's
buses.
from here. I think they installed 4 or 5 sets, I forget, at least 4 sets of Gauneta Prabhupada installed. And then they had the Radha Damodar devotees take initiation. Prabhupada gave a lecture, and then
There was one big meeting in Chicago, right? I think 75 or
That was
76
it.
when
That was
18,
it.
19 buses came together and
no, it wasn't. It was like 40 vans. There was many vans, and then they finished all the other buses besides the Radha Damodar. There was 4 more. They finished those, and they brought them all to Chicago. And then they divided the devotees up into all those buses. They had different leaders already set up and everything.
that is also when that meeting with Prabhupada happened and all the Radha Damodar bus devotees, they gave one rose to Prabhupada.
That was different. That was in Los Angeles.
LA.
That was when Prabhupada first came, when Tamal Krishna Maharaj stopped being a
Right.
in India.
When he wanted to convince Prabhupada to
Prabhupada
let him
didn't-
stay.
He wanted him to come back to India.
Right.
He said, but I've been doing preaching, Srila Prabhupada. And he goes, what is that preaching? He was kind of upset with him a little bit.
That is, I think,
So then-
74 or
so then-
75, early
It was in
75.
75. So then he had the devotees lined up outside the door with a rose. And they all came in, like 10 or 12 of them came and offered obeisances, giving rose. Next one would come in, next one would come in, and probably said, this is preaching. He said, keep doing it, you know. So that was, and then they did it again, I think, in Atlanta. He had the devotees come and probably was there in 75. I think it was March in Atlanta. They also came in his room again, I think, with roses again. Probably like that, seeing all the devotees. And then they would travel to Lord Krishna Maharaj and Vishnu John Swami and some other nice devotees. The boy that made me a devotee, Keshava Das, who was probably an old Prabhupada disciple. They would travel and go to universities. And they came to Washington State, Oregon State. Then they came to San Francisco, and I joined them in San Francisco. They had made several devotees in Oregon and Washington right out of the college. They would have Vishnu would set up the stage, he would chant, and they would go into the audience and see who was absorbed in the kirtan. And then they would tell them, what are you doing with your life? You know, you're supposed to become self-realized. They would challenge
This is
them.
70 to 73, early
75. Right, I mean, they would do it a little before that, but that's when I joined, right when they came through Washington and Oregon. So a couple of friends of mine joined from those universities. They just left their stuff and just left the colleges and just joined the bus. So I met them in San Francisco, is where I joined. And then we had a bhakti program, Vishnu John Swami, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and some other devotees. And we used to have blueberry challah every morning for breakfast with chickpeas, and they made these really amazing gulab jamuns. So they know how to feed the young guys, you know, how to keep them hooked on good prasadam. So then we stayed in San Francisco for a couple of weeks and learned how to distribute Back to Godhead magazine from Kavi Chandra, who was a Grihasta then, now he's a Swami. I got thrown in jail the first day. Went and sell BCGs in San Francisco on the wharf. And the police hated the devotees. And I was new, so I didn't know the etiquette, how not to block traffic on the sidewalk. And even if I wasn't blocking traffic, they would have arrested me anyway. So they took me in to spend the night in jail with my dhoti on, and they came and got me the next day. But anyway, then we went to Denver to see Prabhupada there. He was there for almost a week. And then from Denver we went to Chicago, and that's where Prabhupada was there. Then they had the big initiation. So, yep, that was a fantastic journey there for sure. And then we traveled around America. I came here to Texas several times. We opened a little preaching center in El Paso in 1976. A home, you know, a Sankirtan base where we used to have a Sunday feast. And I met a guy who just got initiated in El Paso by Jivananda Prabhu, who used to come to our place in 76. And he remembered me. And I couldn't remember him. And then we went to his home to do a program. He's a music teacher and a really great musician. He had a picture of himself when he was young on his refrigerator. I was like, I remember you now. He was like one of the only guys that was coming regularly to the temple, you know. So El Paso's doing really good too. I've been preaching El Paso for 12 years or so. And now there's 3 devotees just got initiated there. There's 3 more. So it's by Lord Jagannath's mercy and Gaurata's mercy, the community there is growing gradually.
So what were the early days like in Dallas?
Well, I wasn't here except until 1982, basically. And Tamal Krishna Goswami, you know, originally they were going to build a museum where the restaurant is. But then two devotees, Rohini Sutta and Sunanda, who became the cook of the restaurant, they had a big discussion that we shouldn't open a museum, we should open a restaurant. So they had a meeting with Tamal Krishna Maharaj and some others, and they decided that it was, Sunanda made the commitment to cook, and he was already a really good cook. So then they decided to open Kalachandji's. So they built the restaurant, and just as soon as they finished the temple room, they built that. So the mood in the 80s was all preaching. Tamal Krishna Maharaj made this restaurant just as a preaching tool. And we had to stop giving Bhagavad Gita classes in the evening because it got so busy that we had to bring people in here and give them tours of the temple so there'd be, give people enough time so there'd be a table available. It got so busy that we had to have tours. There was 5 of us giving tours here. Tamal Krishna Goswami, myself, Purnacharya Gopalacharya, and this lady Govinda Dasi. So we used to be in here every night giving tours, and then people would come in after they ate and we'd give them tours, and we made a lot of devotees. And he was preaching, doing home programs to the people who were coming to the restaurant. We were going to their homes and preaching to them and making devotees. And there was a lot of, concentration on preaching to the Western community, and it was perfect because it was a restaurant. People would come in, because they knew us from the airports, and people sometimes would come in and tell me, I used to hate you people, because we used to only see you in the airport selling books, but now we love you. When we see you here in your home, here in the temple, we love you now, So it made a giant impression in Dallas. We've distributed lots of prasadam since 1982. I mean, it's 40 years already, 41 years almost, 40 years in...
Restaurant?
Yeah, the restaurant was opened in October of 82. So it's been 40 years. So we've distributed hundreds and hundreds of thousands of plates of prasadam, and in Dallas people are very favorable because they've eaten prasadam here.
Everybody knows Kalachandji's.
Oh, lots and lots of people.
That reminds me, I am primarily prasadam devotee.
Yes.
I don't want to miss that. So
It's
I'll
time
see
for
you both later.
prasadam. All right, prasadam time, let's go.
Thank you very much,
Thank you. Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.